Hey, what's up guys, Josh's Boost here and welcome back to another One Piece video. Today I'm doing a new chapter, I suppose, for a video I did a little while ago, which was what makes this card broken, OP11 Luffy. And in that video I already mentioned I might be doing this video, and since Gum Gum Giant didn't get the ban hammer yet, I thought it was finally time to take a look at it. Basically I'm going to be breaking down exactly what makes Gum Gum Giant broken from a game design perspective, by simply looking at the base level that the One Piece TCG has established since pretty much OP01 Romance Dawn. After all, a card can only be seen as broken or too powerful when you compare it to other cards, and not necessarily in a vacuum, right? So first, let's take a look at Gum Gum Giant, even though I think everybody at this point knows what this card does and is kind of sick of it, probably. But yeah, Gum Gum Giant is a purple 1-cost event card that reads: counter, done -2, you may trash 1 card from your hand. If your leader has the Straw Hat Crew type, up to one of your leaders or character cards gains plus 4000 power during this battle. Then, draw 2 cards. And cards like Gum Gum Giant, they are commonly referred to as counter events, so that's the type of card that we need to be comparing Giant to really understand why this one is so much better than pretty much every other counter event in the game. Let's break it down. Countering is a huge mechanic of the One Piece trading card game, and most commonly is done by using characters that also have the counter text printed on them. There is like an entire balancing mechanic to these cards as well, which I might dive into in a future video, but for this one it's simply important that you have to discard these cards to provide either a plus 1000 or plus 2000 value to your character or leader that is being attacked. This means when your opponent is swinging, say, their Lucci leader into your Pluffy leader, you can -1 card from your hand in card advantage to make sure you don't have to take a life. Pretty straightforward. However, there is also event cards that provide additional counter value, of course. Bandai has done a great job balancing these events, in my opinion, so let's break that down first. As a general rule, counter events that cost 1 done will usually provide you with 2000 counter value, as well as grant an additional bonus, and have a trigger effect. OP01's Paradise Waterfall, for example, costs 1 done, and gives plus 2000 power, and will allow you to restand one of your characters, a bonus, and then it also has a trigger effect. 1-cost counter events like Guard Point, they still cost 1 done, but they don't provide any additional bonus, but they grant 3000 power instead of 2, and have a trigger effect. So basically, you're trading off the additional bonus effect for a 1000 additional counter power. And then the final 1-cost counter events that don't provide any bonus, but instead force you to meet like a certain requirement like Radical Beam. And then in exchange for meeting this requirement, in this case it's like having 2 or less life, you get to boost by plus 4000 for just 1 done. Very powerful, but in the grand scheme of things, still relatively balanced. Cards like this also often provide a trigger effect. Like with regular counter characters, you still go -1 when using these cards. And you also have to keep a Don open to activate them, which means that generally you will be able to play with less Don during your own turn if you want to make sure you can use these events during your opponent's turn. This is actually quite a downside, but the bonus effects of these cards often makes it worth it. Or the additional counter power, of course. Then the other type of counter event that I want to go over is the 0-cost events that I think at this point every color has. Those don't cost any Don at all, and they just make you discard a card to get like plus 3000 power. It's not really worth going into. Just very, very fair and balanced game perspective. Those also have like a trigger effect pretty often, which just can be quite strong, but you still have to go like -2 cards from your hand to like protect from a 2000 over the character or leader that's being attacked swing. So yeah, pretty fair, and it basically just equals out to the same as the characters with the counter value. And then the next type of counter event we will be going over are the counter events that cost 2 done. They also have some general rules, which are counter events that cost 2 done generally give a character or leader a plus 4000 boost and provides an additional bonus effect. Punk Gibson, for example, gives you a plus 4000 boost and then also allows you to rest one of your opponent's 4-cost or less characters while doing so. They generally also have like a pretty powerful trigger effect. Not all of them though. Looking at you, Repel. There are some exceptions that don't grant any additional effects, but simply counter for 5000 value, like Ikoku, Sovereignty, for example, or even something like the Punk Hazard Eagle event. It's kind of the same. Like, it doesn't really prevent an additional effect, but counters for 5,000 in value, essentially. Again, you go -1 when using these cards, and you're required to keep done up. But in exchange, you will usually block any attacks that are 3k above whatever is attacking into your leader or character with just one card. While when you're using characters, this would cost at least 2 cards, and, you know, multiple 2ks in your hand. And then maybe even more cards depending on how many 2ks you have, right? There are a lot of exceptions to the rules I just mentioned, but the vast majority of counter events subscribe to these rules. And the truth is, a lot of the exceptions are not really worth talking about, since they are tied to like less impressive archetypes, or their special bonus effects aren't that powerful at all. However, this finally brings us to Gum Gum Giant. Again, it's a 1-cost event that gives plus 4,000 power, which means that generally it would need like a certain requirement. And it does. Your leader needs to be Straw Hat Pirates, and you also need to return 2 Don to the Don deck. The first requirement does of course lock it to certain leaders, but it just so happens that some of these leaders are also some of the strongest in the game, like Green Purple Luffy, Blue Purple Luffy, and Purple Luffy. And while minusing 2 Don on your opponent's turn basically sets you back a turn in the early to mid game, when you are already at 10 Don, this is actually a meaningless downside, since you can't go above 10 Don anyway. So when you're playing this card in the late game, there is no drawback to this inherently. You know, if you have 10 Don, you go like -2, you go to 8, and then on your restand phase, you just get 2 Don back, you go to 10 anyway, so yeah, no drawback. However, of course, I do have to admit that, like, if used in the early to mid game, you are setting back yourself a turn, but, I mean, you can simply not play the card at that point, right? It also has no trigger ability, so when you are taking all this into account, while powerful, this card's not game-breaking, I would say. The part that is game-breaking about this card is that you get to draw 2 cards after discarding a card, which means 2 things. You get to cycle a brick out of your hand and dig deeper into your deck to look for any cards you might need. So you could be looking for more counter or, for example, a boss monster, or, you know, just a play for the next turn. And you lose 0 cards from your hand when you're countering a swing 3k or less above whatever it's attacking into, which in my opinion is the most broken part about this card. What makes it even crazier is that this card can draw into itself, so technically speaking, if you leave 4 Don open, it's possible to guard for a value of 20 fucking thousand with just 2 cards in your hand. That should not be possible. Honestly, I think just the fact that you get to cycle 2 cards and not lose any card advantage while playing this card already puts it over the top, even if you need to consider the minus Don in some of the instances that you're playing this card. Yeah, that's all I have to say. This card shouldn't be legal in my opinion, and the 2 arguable best decks of the format, both maxing out on this card, is not a coincidence in my opinion. Let me know if there's any other cards you want to see me do a breakdown of. Could be anything you think maybe should be banned and why that card is so good. Yeah, leave a like if you do enjoy this type of content. It's the second time I'm doing this around, so I'm just kind of, you know, touchy feeling if the subscriber base likes stuff like this. Of course, if you aren't subscribed but do enjoy this type of content, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment. Yeah, and if you do, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!